Hello, everyone. Doing my best Jordan Hall impression, the latest Flyers Talk podcast. Ashlyn Sullivan here with Jordan Hall, Joe Fordyce, the Flyers crew. Excited to be with you guys for this Flyers season because it has been a really exciting year. Like I mentioned, Jordan Hall, Flyers writer, Joe Fordyce, our pre and post game live producer. And guys, we're looking at the latest Flyers season and the worst news ever of Tyson Foerster and his injury. And I was talking to Flyers fans. I was like, just when it was getting good, when you really felt like there was something going on with this team, you get a massive injury with Tyson Foerster out 2 to 3 months, and we know the significance of it. And Jordan, I think the biggest question as we get into this past game was, okay, who's going to step up? And frankly, I thought you would see a huge drop off. And then they have that big win over Buffalo. And it's like, you know what? They might be able to fill this hole somehow, some way.
Absolutely, Ashlyn. And first, great to have you back. Great to see you. We're pumped to have you back on the Flyers Talk podcast. And Ashlyn, I agree. I think with the Tyson Foerster absence, I was pretty concerned. This was a team that was already kind of up and down offensively. And this guy was your leading goal scorer. But I think the Flyers had a little bit of a statement against Buffalo. And I'm not ready to say they're going to be just fine. It's a win over the Sabres. But they got balanced scoring, and I think they really answered the test mentally. Rick Tocchet talked about this would be a good test to see where his team was mentally, not only to respond to a really bad loss to the Penguins, a 5-1 defeat, but also to get past the hurdle of losing a key guy for 2 to 3 months. And I think they showed that they have some guys that can step up. And, Joe, I think that will be pretty critical moving forward, getting that balanced offense, getting guys to provide some of the things that Tyson Foerster provided. He provided a lot.
Yeah, I think when you look at it, we've seen this team show balanced scoring at times in the past, but what we haven't seen is them do it consistently. And I think when you're playing someone other than Buffalo, because, Jordan, you and I were sitting there watching it the other night, and we were talking about this Buffalo team. Their structure, pretty much everything, leaves a lot to be desired. They make these crazy cross-ice passes that are, board to board, leaving open opportunities for the rush the other way. And to the Flyers' credit, they took advantage. You play who's on your schedule, and good teams beat the teams they're supposed to. And that's what the Flyers did. I'm interested to see what happens when they step up in competition, which obviously Sunday will be the best of the best right now that the league has to offer. So, but it's always good to see a message by the coach translate on the ice. And Tocc's message was 5% better every guy. And I think you saw almost every player in the lineup the other night could argue that they played their best game of the year. And I think that's all you can ask for in a game that, quite frankly, you're supposed to win. And just the idea that you're talking about games that you're supposed to win shows you the progress they've made from the last couple of years, because I'm not sure that they would refer to any game. And we know Torts, anytime
he hated those.
That subject up, Torts was always like, we don't have any room to say we should beat anyone. So the idea that it wasn't blatantly talked about, but there was a lot of kind of insinuating that they should win that game and they should do that. And, that does show progress.
Yeah, especially when I think you look at, okay, it was one game without Tyson Foerster. I know talking to Scotty and Alan, the post-game shows, they were saying you got to bring someone up, Jordan, to fill his hole. And that's why I'm curious, long term, you're looking most likely post-Olympic break that Tyson's even eligible to come back. What would you do? How would you fill this hole? Because while it looked great against Buffalo, I think it's very key to remember it was Buffalo.
So true. And I think right now, Ashlyn, they want to give Nikita Grabenkin a look up in the lineup. And I think he's earned that. He's been playing the fourth line ever since he's made the team out of training camp. And I think everyone knows he's not a fourth liner. He can play up in the lineup. So I think they owe it to him to give him a shot. Say, hey, we're going to give you a higher spot in the lineup, see what you can do with it. But I really think eventually we're going to see Alex bump at some point. He's the kid that's one of their top prospects down with the Phantoms. think everyone really had him kind of circled in training camp to make the team. He didn't, but he's playing well with Lehigh Valley. I think he's had a little bit of a hiccup recently, but I expect him to be pretty determined to get back up here. And I think when you consider Foerster's out 2 to 3 months, that's a really good runway for a kid to come up, play a big role, not have to think like he's coming up for one game and then going back. Like, he'll be here and get a chance. I think eventually we're going to see him at some point. But right now, I think they're confident to give Nikita Gorenkin a look, Joe, and see what he can do.
Yeah, and Ashlyn, Jordan and I did when we did our lineup projections on this pod before the season started. Both of us had Alex bump in the starting lineup on opening night, which obviously didn't pan out. Now with this injury, you kind of ask the question, if not bump now, then when?
Yeah,
because there's a huge need in terms of offense and a guy to play up in your lineup in terms of forwards. And if he's not showing you enough to get the opportunity when they're shorthanded, that would concern me a little bit. So I'd be surprised if we don't see him, because I think he needs a look just as much as Gorenkin does. Because they're still in the process of trying to figure out who's who on this team, who's here for the long haul, all that kind of stuff. And with that glaring hole, goal scoring wise, I don't know how you don't give Bump a look. I mean, I suggested to Jordan the other night that I thought he'd be here Sunday. I don't think that now, because I think he would have been called up already to get some practice time in. But I think we'll see him in short order here pretty soon.
Yeah, you would think. Go ahead, Jordan.
No, Ashlyn, go ahead.
I was talking with Danny Briere at the Flyers casino night, and we'll get to that interview soon. And we talked about what was good first, but we talked about what was worrying him. And I was wondering if he was going to go down that direction of goal scoring and what he does with Tyson's injury. He was a little more vague about just what's keeping him up at night, but that was something where I was wondering if we were going to get some clarification of when Bump would be brought up, if even. And I agree with you, Joe. If you don't see him brought up this next week, I'm, as a Flyers fan, wondering what's going on and why.
Yeah, and I think fans want to see him too. And I just feel like this is a golden opportunity to showcase him a little bit, not only to your fans, but for him too. Again, I think it's a long runway where he'll have a significant role. It's not going to be like they're trying to find a spot for him in the lineup. Like, he'll have a good role. And I think so, Ashlyn, that fans want to see him. And I think if he's playing well down there, you want to reward him too. And he's a kid that has a confidence and a swagger to him. If Tyson Foerster has something similar to that, I don't think he'll be fazed by the moment at all. I think he'll want to kind of jump on the opportunity, especially given he didn't really jump on the opportunity in training camp.
I definitely think there's a thing that you want to see within hockey players, and that's the ability to seize an opportunity. And this is one of them. Over the last few years, we've seen a few guys with this organization both take the opportunity and then not take the opportunity. And you'd want to see. What I would be concerned about is if we don't see Bump come up and show something, I would be concerned that him not making the team out of camp has kind of knocked him down a few pegs. Mm-hmm. And that's not anything you want to see. Now, he's playing great with the Phantoms. And obviously it's different. We've talked about goaltenders coming up and just kind of the difference from the minors to the NHL. I think the game translates a little better when you're talking about forwards, goal scoring, wingers, those sort of things, except, the speed obviously ramps up a little bit. But, I want to see him come up and look like a confident kid and look like someone that knows he belongs, and kind of views this as a redemption for not making the team out of camp, because, it seemed like everyone expected him to. And then when that didn't happen, that can weigh on a player, and it can kind of, like I said, knock them down a few pegs. So I'd like to see him kind of seize an opportunity at redeeming himself from that.
Yeah, it was a huge surprise, so much so that Jordan, I remember we were Flyers Media Day. We had Alex as one of the interviews, and that interview never saw the light of day because that interview, I was so confident he was making the team. When Joe and I were organizing our questions, like, okay, what are you going to do with this opportunity? What are the hurdles of learning the new team and making it? And then when he didn't make it, I was like, oh, well, that's not going to work, which is a bummer. This was a good interview.
I know he's a fun kid. He really is. There's definitely a confidence to him. And Ashlyn, you're not the only one. I think everyone really thought this was the kid that was going to make it. I think every year they have someone that seems poised to take a jump and grab a role. And I think without a doubt, even in the Flyers' minds, it was Bump. And he just didn't have the training camp. He didn't have the preseason that I think people thought he would have. And they happened to have a young guy right around his age in Nikita Gurbankin who played well and probably deserved it. And they gave it to Gurbankin. But I think they knew that Bump going to Lehigh Valley, Joe, wouldn't be a terrible thing. It wouldn't be a bad thing. He wouldn't be the first prospect to go down to the minors and find his game, find his confidence. And I think he's starting to do that.
Yeah, I mean, we think about Cam York. I mean, he didn't make Torts had him down with the Phantoms in a way more unexpected move than Bump this year. Whether York came up and found his game under Torts, we could argue. There were moments. But I think what we're seeing is that you either embrace it or you let it essentially affect the rest of your career. So I'm anxious to see Bump come up here and play. And, look, to me, I don't view this as a Bump or Gurbankin. I think there's room for both of them. There's places in this lineup that can be tinkered with. And, there's no way around it. There's going to be a serious void in goal scoring with Tyson Foerster. We saw it earlier this year already when after blocking a shot, when he missed some games. We just saw games where it looked like, okay, where are the goals going to come from? And at that point in time, you had Konechny with a slow start goal scoring wise. Tippett went into a slump for a while. You had your other guys slumping at the same time that Foerster was out of the lineup. So it became really tedious to watch and think of where the offense is going to be created from. I think they should give Bump a look before any of that potential happens. Guys are going well right now. The other night, we talked about it, the balanced scoring, everybody getting involved. I mean, there was, 4 or 5 players with multiple points the other night. Maybe not the Colorado game, but going forward, I think it should be bring them up, get them in the lineup. And there's some guys lower in this lineup that are used to not being in the lineup every night. So I think there's definitely space.
Yeah, I'm curious if we'd see that change anytime soon. Like you mentioned, I thought if he was going to play Sunday against the Avalanche, it would have happened by now. So we'll see what happens next week.
And the other thing, Ashlyn and Jordan, too, is the when a guy like Grundstrom comes up, that's a placeholder. That's not a guy that, the Flyers aren't bringing him up saying, okay, he's going to come in and replace Tyson Foerster's goal scoring. That's not going to happen. They need to figure out who the next man up with the potential is, who best fits into this lineup to fill the goal scoring void. And to me, there's one answer at this point in time.
And Ashlyn, I know, talked about some of that with Danny Briere, as she mentioned, the general manager of the Flyers. Joe, Ashlyn, the Flyers finally had a night off on Thursday after 6 games in 10 days. And of course, Ashlyn was working at casino night, but I know she wanted to be there and catch up with Briere as well as Dan Vladar. Let's look at those interviews right now.
We are here with Flyers goaltender Dan Vladar, his first Flyers casino night. A lot goes into an event like this. What are your expectations?
Well, I think it's going to be a great time. Obviously, we'll get to meet some people that me personally I haven't met yet, but obviously great cause, and I'm just hoping we are going to raise as much money as possible, and looking forward to it for sure.
And last time we spoke was Flyers Media Day, where we had no idea how this first season, you in Philadelphia, was going to go, but you were so confident you were going to take advantage of this opportunity. That's what you told us. How has the season been for you so far?
Well, obviously a couple of ups and downs, but that's just hockey, a little bit of a roller coaster. But I think I think that overall us as a group that we have been playing a pretty good hockey, and I think that we still know that we have a lot of things to improve, and hopefully by the game 82. We can tap our shoulders and be like, this is the spot where we were hoping that we were going to be at. But, as I said, it's a lot of hockey left, and we are really confident. I think still that, we can really do something special here.
And I compliment you because you're always team first in how you speak and your performance. But do you see this opportunity in front of you being the starting goaltender here right now?
Well, I mean, Sam is a really good goalie as well, and I said it multiple times. It's an 82-game season, and you cannot just rely on one guy. So I'm not putting any pressure on myself or Sam. We just take it game by game, and if I'm playing, Sam is supporting me, and if he's the other way, then it's the other way. So I think we have a really good chemistry with each other, and just got to keep doing it. And I'm pretty sure the guys are feeling in that way from us too. That we are really doing everything for the crest on our front of our jersey. So I think it's been working, and I'm really excited for our future here.
It definitely is working. And you looked at this opportunity when you came to Philadelphia, and you told us you still felt like you had starting goaltender potential in you. How have you been able to get ready for an opportunity like this?
Yeah, well, obviously it's something that I've really been dreaming of, right? And, it's not my first year in the league, but this is probably the first time when I really have the opportunity. So I just don't want to waste it, and I just want to enjoy it every single day. And whether it's a practice or game, I just want to get better every day and, just bring some energy to the group and bring some positivity to every day, just for us to enjoy the time at the rink that we spend. And another thing, it's a great thing to be here because we get to spend some time off the ice as well together, and, with the wives and stuff, so it'll be great.
Well, enjoy your first Flyers casino night.
Thank you so much. Nice to see you.
We are here with Flyers General Manager Danny Briere at Flyers Casino Night. Always a really fun night, and we're seeing fans and so many people coming in to support this team. What has the community been like on a really successful year so far?
I mean, it's the key for us. Our fans are everything. Without our fans, there's no hockey teams, there's no games. So we appreciate their support, and it's good to see them come in and support our charities as well. And, it's my favorite night of the year as far as mingling with the fans, just the atmosphere, how it is here. It's easy to approach the players, it's easy to approach the fans and spend time with them. So best night of the year.
For sure. And we were just talking about how fun this year has been so far. You look at this team, the success so far. What do you like? What do you have?
We have a little bit of a swagger. We're comfortable where we are, and the one thing that has really impressed me with this group is whenever we've had a bad outing, it doesn't linger, and we're able to come back and shake it off the next game and get back to the way we can play. So there's lots to like throughout the lineup. Guys are gelling. Now it's early. We're only about not even a third of the way in yet, but it's fun to see that we're in the mix and we're battling, with all the teams, and there's a lot to be looking forward, exciting about this team.
And you mentioned that bounce back effort. How much is Rick Tocchet responsible for that? What have you seen from the coach? Because it seems like to us at least they're really gelling around him.
Yeah, and I think he's challenged them to respond, and he's looking for that response. He wants that to become a staple of our team. You look in the past, getting rid of those 10-game losing streaks like we've had the last few years. Responding is a big part of taking the next step in the development, and he's been preaching that, and it's fun to see the way the guys have responded.
And you're always busy trying to make this team better in the process of doing so every day. what keeps you up at night? What do you still feel like this team needs to get where you want to be eventually?
That's my job, to be worried, and the worst part is I can't control anything on the ice, when the game starts, but we're always looking. If we have a way to improve the team and help the guys, we're going to jump in, but at the same time keeping an outlook on the future and making sure that we're building a team that's going to be fun for our fans to watch for many years to come.
I got to ask you one more about this goaltending situation, because maybe it was naive to us when Dan Vladar came in here on media day, and I talked to him like he was a backup goaltender, because that's what I assumed the situation would be, and he has lit Philadelphia on fire. Yeah. Did you foresee this going the way it has this season?
Maybe not to this point, but we had and we know we had some intel that Dan could definitely play a really solid role in a tandem with Sam Ersson. We love what they're both bringing, and they're going back and forth. Sam maybe had a little bit of a slow start, but he's been excellent the last 3 or 4 games, and that's what we expected. We expected each other to push each other and to fight for starts. So it's really exciting to see that.
Yes, it's definitely worked out in the Flyers' favor. Well, Danny, have so much fun tonight. Thanks, you.
Ashlyn. Thank you very much.
Great stuff from Ashlyn and Danny Briere and Dan Vladar. Ashlyn, Dan Vladar's just been, I think, a breath of fresh air. Not only is he giving the Flyers that much-needed play in net that they've been craving, I think, for the last 2 or 3 years, but his personality, there's a lot there. He's a pretty fun guy.
Yeah, you'll see even in the interview we just listened to, I'm talking to Vladar about his game, his confidence, this opportunity, and he's always going back to team first. He's always saying, well, the team's playing really great around me. And I'm like, Dan, I get that. But what about your play and net? And he won't go there unless you force him to go there. And that just shows his selflessness. That's a hard word to say. But I think I talked to Vladar about this at Casino Night in that interview, where maybe it was naive on our part, where our first chance getting to talk to him at media day, the interview was so geared towards him being the backup goaltender and just accepting, like, you're in here, you're going to help Sam. This is so great. Look at this tandem, teamwork. And Vladar was very upfront that he sees this actually as a starting opportunity with the Flyers in a really humble way, not knocking down Sam. And I remember Joe and I leaving that media day interview, like, did we miss something? Like, is this guy going to be the starting goaltender? And now, Joe, we so see that we did miss something very much.
Yeah, I think, look, and I like Sam Ersson a lot, and we've seen obvious signs from him. But the one thing Ersson did is he did leave an opportunity for another goaltender to come in and kind of take the reins as the starting goalie. Now, I think there's this interesting aspect of Dan Vladar where he's not used to talking about himself. I mean, he was the backup to a guy that almost won the Calder Trophy last year, in Dustin Wolf in Calgary. So, and I think he might have even mentioned it during that interview with Media Day, Ashlyn, about, he's not used to being
the guy.
Like it's never been that way for him. So it's not surprising that he has kind of a hard time, and that he's very timid in term. Like when we talked to both goaltenders the day of the media day, I found Sam Ersson to speak with more conviction about Dan Vladar than Vladar himself did. Mm-hmm. And that was what was interesting to me, because Ersson was the one that said, well, Dan's not coming in here to be the backup. And it was almost like,
oh, I thought he was. Yeah.
Yeah. It was almost like Dan and Ersson had a conversation off camera, mm-hmm. where Dan told Ersson that he wasn't here to be the backup, and then Ersson communicated that to us instead of Vladar. So, but it is, there were some people around the organization that seemed to think there was another level that Vladar had, and that maybe it got suppressed by the fact that they had this young phenom goaltender in Calgary. And I know there's talk, if you search any of the Canada blogs and things this season, that Calgary have used Dan Vladar right now because they're one of the worst teams in the league, and they really don't have a backup to Wolf. And the other thing is, the sophomore slump is something that it's a cliche in sports, but I think it gets goaltenders in the NHL more than it gets any position in any sport.
Mm-hmm.
So we've seen it with Jordan Binnington in the past. He came off a Stanley Cup. His second year was way down from what that, of course, if you start by winning a cup, that's probably a natural thing that's going to happen. But there's a track record of it happening with goaltenders. And it looks like the Flyers were the winners in this scenario.
Yeah, I know with Calgary, and I think when it comes to backup goaltenders, a lot of times the backup doesn't always get the best matchup. They get kind of the worst matchup at times. And I believe word out of Calgary was that they tried to protect Dustin Wolf a good bit because he was a rookie. They wanted to get him in the best spots possible. So Vladar kind of felt that. He was the one that kind of got the tough starts. And yeah, I believe the Flyers just thought there was another thing there, another level. He was only 28 years old. And actually, it's so funny how you mentioned he deflects attention. Like when we were in New Jersey at the Prudential Center, he had that crazy end of the first period when the Flyers were on the penalty kill. He made a huge save. Like, he just looked incredible. He's the reason they were tied in a 1-1 game. And Trevor Zegras says Vladar walks into the locker room and he's like, good job, boys, way to go. And Zegras is like, no, good job, you. Like, was trying to tell him, like, you were awesome, man. And he just does not. It's all about team. And it's cool to see that, even as he's kind of been one of their most important pieces, if not their best player. He is very team-oriented, and it just seems like he's been a seamless fit, Ashlyn, into the locker room.
And Jordan, you know what? I want to follow up on what you just said there about Zegras and talk in terms of seamless fits. The comment you just made about him kind of talking about Vladar, I was reminded of the other night when we were down there getting the interviews, and you asked him about Foerster being out in his absence, and he made the whole joke about, well, he's still here. It's not like he's completely gone, and everybody gets a laugh. I don't think you can understate the moves and the personalities that were brought in this past offseason. With Zegras kind of lightening up the room, he seems like a guy that doesn't really take that much seriously off the ice, and it helps the room. And Vladar is such a I don't know. It might sound like gentle soul. Seems like the weird, like maybe
that's spot on.
Odd way to describe it, but that's the way he seems.
Yeah.
It's like you talk to him and you're like, wow, this guy's a hockey player. Didn't we see him just cross-checking a guy that was in the crease the other night? Like, it doesn't seem like that guy. But I think I go back to what John Tortorella always said about how tight this locker room was, and many of the components are the same. But I think that the guys they brought in might have made it even better this season.
Yeah, and I think that's only going to help guys when we talk here about Matvei Michkov. And I love, Jordan, you were at practice and I saw the reports about the accountability he took for his slow start and how you see it coming up to the other side here. I do think the locker room is helping him in that regard. I mean, we can talk all about how Sean Couturier, you're going to say, quote unquote, called him out. I don't think it was like that. I think is more Michkov, you're seeing him take accountability for the way this season started. And it was really the first time Jordan and I heard him kind of turn the corner, it seemed like, at practice this week.
I agree, Ashlyn. It was the first time we really heard him kind of talk openly about his offseason, and it's no secret. He did not come into camp or into the season in the best of shape for various reasons. Rick Tocchet mentioned how Michkov had a bit of an ankle issue in the summer, so that probably impacted his training. Various things probably went into it, but he needed to get into better shape, and Rick Tocchet was very honest about that, and Michkov talked openly about that and said, when asked, will you do anything next offseason differently training-wise? And he said, I think I'm going to stay here and train. And that probably has to be music to the ears of the Flyers brass, because they love when guys stay in Voorhees, in the Philadelphia area, and train under their watch. And especially when it comes to a 20-year-old who has to go all the way home to Russia. And it's probably just tough to really keep consistent tabs on him at the end of the day. And I thought it was great, Joe, that he was so hard on himself, even as his scoring's picking up. Like, I thought over the last 3.5 weeks, he's looked a lot like himself. And I thought maybe he would talk a little more confidently about himself, but he was hard on himself and said, I'm not happy with where my point total is. I think I can help the team better. And then mentioned how February and that Olympic break will be critical for him to be ready for the Flyers stretch drive. And Joe, I'm with Ashlyn. I thought it was good of Michkov as a 20-year-old kid to recognize these things and talk about it.
Yeah, the timing of the comments was very interesting when, you're seeing the uptick in his play. But I even just a little thing the other night in the game. There was a shift. He and Zegras come off the ice, and you can see them chatting on the bench. And it's kind of like each of them telling each other that they were open on the play or where they were on the previous shift. But it came with smiles. It didn't come with it didn't seem to be any sort of flamboyant, like anger, none of that sort of stuff. And I think that's a progress with Michkov, because I think his frustration in the past has been very visible all the time, to the point where it could have affected his game. We've seen him take penalties when he gets frustrated. I don't know that part's completely cleaned up, because I think we're still seeing that at times. But whatever this guy needs to tell himself, I'm all for it. And he even referenced during the Olympic break coming up that he was going to be working the whole time. Kind of implied that he would be staying here to work out during that time as well, which to me seems in stark contrast to last year during the Four Nations. And I believe Michkov was out of the country the whole time. I'm not remembering quite exactly, but I believe that to be the case. So it seems like maybe he's growing up a little bit, not, kind of recognizing, hey, that hard work pays off type of thing. Because I think a lot of players, when they come in, they've dominated everywhere they've played until they get to the NHL, and then it doesn't happen right away, and they become frustrated because the level of skill is so much higher. And maybe it takes them a little bit to realize that you need to work out a little more, maybe, and hopefully that's where Michkov is right now.
Yeah, that is definitely the hope, as I think we've seen great progress with him and really the Flyers. It's been an awesome year so far, a huge matchup this weekend against the Avalanche. This is definitely one of their biggest tests of the season, so excited for that. But that is our first Flyers Talk podcast as the three of us. I thought it was fabulous, so like us, love us, subscribe us, whatever you got to do. But gentlemen, we'll talk soon.